I call the Honourable David Parker.
The last speaker said that life doesn't go on for communities. I hope they weren't holding their breath during the 7-year delay that we've so far had with this. Otherwise, those members will have turned cold and blue like the members of the National Party. Mr Speaker, I've got to liven this debate up. It's getting a bit quiet in here, isn't it? Look, it is somewhat sad that, as other members have noted, I was actually the then minister, and this is I was considerably younger when I introduced this bill to the House on the 15th of August 2008, I'm told. Mr Speaker, the Reserves and Other Land Disposal Bill is meant to be a mechanism whereby Parliament tidies up things that have gone wrong in the status of pieces of land, most of which are generally reserves. Occasionally those pieces of land have been wrongly described as to reserve status, and so they can't be used for the purposes which they were intended. Pieces of land to which this applies crop up periodically throughout the country, and there's generally a piece of legislation like this that tidies up a lot at the same time. It doesn't mean to say that no one disagrees with the outcome in respect of any one piece of land, because there are always a few naysayers, or not always, but often a few naysayers who say that that the opposite to that which the Crown thinks is the case is in fact correct. And indeed, there are a number of the bits of land that have their status changed or clarified pursuant to this legislation where there was discontent. One example was in respect of the Auckland Art Gallery development, where there was controversy as to whether a relatively small encroachment onto the adjacent Albert Park by the extension or the renovation of the Auckland Art Gallery, whether that was to be permitted. The Auckland City thought it was legitimate. The government of the day, the Labor government, with the agreement of other parties, agreed, and that's why it found its way into this bill to clarify that uncertainty. Another one that has hung around for a long, long time and shows why this bill ought to have been progressed earlier relates to what's described in this bill as Lookout Point land, but what is colloquially known in the Oamaru region as Forester Park. Because this bill was so delayed in Parliament, a lot of the agreements for sale that the Oamaru District Council had in respect of selling that land fell over. They had a clause that said that the subdivision had to be completed by a certain date, that it was subject to the title being granted, which effectively meant that the status of the land as being endowment land held for whatever purposes the council wanted to put it to, including the sale and turning into money, purchasing other assets, that needed to be made clear before that subdivision could proceed. Because there was such delay on the part of this Parliament, occasioned by the National Party not giving this a reading, those agreements for sale and purchase passed their critical date and they were voided. And they cannot now, those lands cannot now be resold at the same price, and as a consequence, the Oamaru District Council has quite a hole in its budget, the money already having been spent mainly on the restoration of the Oamaru Opera House. Mr Speaker, that particular saga dragged on so long that a local bill had to be presented covering exactly the same clauses by Jackie Dean, putting the additional cost to the parliamentary system, because they had to be done again separately, and also caused a fee that had to be paid to the Parliament, as is the case with every local bill. So the Oamaru District Council suffered the double blow of both having their land sales fall over because of delay and then having to pay a fee in respect of a local bill to do what this bill was designed to do. Another example where I think I may bring forward a supplementary order paper in respect of this, is for some historical reason that I don't think anyone quite understands, the Otago Aero Club land status is unclear, and this bill makes it clear that the land does belong to the Otago Aero Club rather than anyone else. But then the Crown's got its hand out the side and says, oh, if in the future the Otago Aero Club decides to sell its land, half of the proceeds of sale have got to be paid back to the Crown. And I would hope that we could get the agreement on both sides of the House, Mr Woodhouse, to have an amendment to that particular clause in the bill. Sorry? Come and lobby, so that we could, in that future eventuality, this is clause 45 and 46 of the bill, it says that if the Taieri Airport Trust sells the land, it must pay half the net proceeds of sale into a Crown bank account. And the only reason that's in there is that the Crown said that it wouldn't do it otherwise. So there's no principle lying under. It's some sort of, unlikely future eventuality, which in the end the Taieri Airport Air Club agreed to. But I'm sure that the member, Mr Woodhouse, would understand that it's an issue that vexes Mr Julian Smith, amongst others, and it's quite unjust. So I hope that we can agree to an amendment to remove the words, however, if Taieri Airport Trust sells the land, it must pay half the net proceeds of sale into a Crown bank account. It would be a better bill for that. The other mistake that was made in respect of this bill actually occurred at Select Committee, and that was to insert into the bill at that late stage provisions relating to, again, I'm just looking for it, Opua. Sorry, Mr Speaker, I've just lost my place. Anyway, there was at Select Committee an introduction into the bill of the Opua Esplanade Reserve land, which was inserted at Select Committee through proposed clauses 34A, 34B and 34C. Now, the bill that went to Select Committee didn't have that in it. The Select Committee was somehow convinced that it should go in there, but it was quite controversial, and it changed legal rights in respect of that piece of land in a way that there are plenty of people up north thought was wrong. So it should not have been put in this bill, particularly because all of the people who were of a different view never got the opportunity at Select Committee to put the opposite point of view. So I'm pleased that the government has now agreed to bring forward a supplementary order paper to take out those clauses 34A, 34B and 34C that were inserted at Select Committee. Mr Speaker, this is not particularly controversial or significant legislation, but it is the sort of machinery of government legislation that should be passed promptly. I've already given you the instance of the losses which would go to many hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, that have been occasioned to the Oamaru District Council because of the lack of alacrity in passing this bill. And I'm sure that there have been other losses in other parts of the country caused by the uncertainty that has occurred in the period from 2008 until now. Sir, 2008 until now, 7 years. 7 years of delay. It should have been cleaned up by 2009 at the latest, Mr Speaker. And indeed, had the government come to the opposition and said, look, and to the other opposition parties and said, look, we want to get this piece of legislation through. It's not controversial. You'll all agreed to it at earlier readings of the bill, or just about all of you have agreed to it in earlier readings of the bill. Let's not muck about. Let's actually get this through. Let's not have the full length of speeches taken in the debate. Let's just do our duty and get certainty. We would have agreed. We would have agreed. This would have been done years ago, but this feckless government did not have the wit to come and say, look, you guys, you actually introduced this bill, can we get it through? We would have cooperated.